There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
Hey, got to start off on a bit of a sour note. Hey, I need some prayers and healing sent my son's way. Linus, he was just diagnosed with Crohn's. He is in the hospital and will be for the next few days. He's been doubled over in pain, dealing with a lot of issues. And any thoughts, love, energy, healing you can send his way, prayers. It's weird to say what I'm about to say, but luckily my wife has been dealing with Crohn's for the better part of a decade. Mm-hmm. So she knows how to deal with a lot of this. It's a long road to hoe, and it's not easy. And there's a lot of pain and discomfort involved in this. But we, luckily has somebody in his corner who's dealing with it and knows the ins and outs and ups and downs. Right. So not only do I ask you to pray for, healing and making his life a little easier, but I also pray that his stubbornness will ease and that he will follow the rules and directions and directives given him by the medical staff. So please keep that in mind as well. Our next bit of house cleaning news is to make a very sad announcement. Tim and I mentioned this on social media the other day, but it was just brought to our attention that our good friend and longtime friend of the radio show, Joe Who, passed away. Joe lost his battle to cancer on the 5th of this month. I want to thank, and I wish I could remember who it was, a few of the listeners had reached out to me saying, hey, I was trying to find Joe Who. I wanted to get a reading, but I'm not finding any web presence. And I too looked around and couldn't find anything. So I gave Joe a call, and a very friendly gentleman answered the phone. And I said, is Joe there? And the gentleman said, why, yes, he is. Hold on. And Joe got on, and we had a friendly little talk for a few minutes. And then I said, Joe, I noticed that your social media presence is gone and your website's gone. And he said, well, Dave, I'm in the middle of battling cancer. I'm doing chemotherapy right now. And, just hoping for the best. This kind of took him by surprise, it seemed. And we chit-chatted for a few minutes, and I told him that Tim and I had him in our prayers and we'd be posting a prayer and healing request for him, and he thanked us for that. And, we mentioned to him how much we love having him on the show, and as soon as he gets up and well and feeling better, we're going to have a new way. I found a new way to have him on and do some readings again, and he said he'd love to do that. And then I left him be for a little bit. I guess he passed away the very next day. So, he was a great staple for our show and was always available when a guest would bail out on us last minute. Tim could make a phone call and Joe would jump online and be there for us. I had him as a guest on Midnight in the Desert, as a guest on Coast to Coast AM, and as a guest on Beyond the Darkness Radio. And it's just, it's a loss. The guy was insanely talented at what he did. And I'll never forget. I mean, I got a call one day from a friend in panic mode. She was one of the volunteers helping with some special needs students, and they had gone to a theme park, and one of the students was missing. And they were scrambling, and she called, she goes, I know this sounds so weird. Well, actually, this came through a third person. She called our other good friend, Susan, who called me. Susan's like, do we know any of our psychic friends? And I'm like, Susan, it's, 10:30 at night on a Saturday. I don't know if they're going to answer or even if they're up. And I called around and I got nobody until Joe Who. Yeah. And Joe, I didn't think of Joe as the type for this because he's a voice direct sensitive, meaning he needs to talk to the person and make that connection. And Joe was my last choice for that moment. And I called Joe and he picked up and, "Hi, Dave. I hope everything's okay." I'm like, "Well, Joe, I need some help. And I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse, but my friend called me. Another dear friend of ours is separated from a disabled child who wandered off in a theme park. And I know you do voice direct, but we're at a loss." And he said, "Hold on a second." Okay. Dave, he's fine. Go to the front of the park. There's a gift shop or a shop outside the front gates of the park. He's in there. There are 2 people waiting with him, and he's safe. I said, "Okay, Joe, I will call and let them know." And I hung up and called, and I told them, and they raced to the front of the park. They went outside the park. Off to the left was a gift shop. They went into the gift shop, and there was the young boy standing there with 2 people waiting for somebody to come find him. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And I called Joe back, and I'm like, "Joe, holy shit." And he just, that little sly laugh of his.
Yep.
And and I said, "Joe, you're voice direct. I'm not the person. Matter of fact, I'm too removed from this." And he said, "Right, but you're friends and you're connected, and we're all connected to one another. And your connection to your friend that called you is very strong, and her connection is very strong to the friend." And he goes, it translated through. And he goes, was it spot on? I go, "Joe, it couldn't have been more spot on." I didn't even tell him what theme park or what state they were in. So it's not like, oh, he might have known and he was taking a shot that this kid was waiting in a gift shop outside the park for them. Yeah. And it was crazy, but amazing guy. And everybody that called in loved him, and people that called afterwards to get readings with him loved him. He was one of the good guys, truly one of the good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know this is really tough for Tim too. He was very close with Joe, and they had many off-air conversations. I will say Tim maintained a much more thorough friendship with Joe than I did. Although I spoke to Joe many times off air, Tim and Joe were very close friends, and I know this is tough on him. And but we wanted to let everybody know out there. So keep Joe and his family in your prayers and thoughts for a safe journey to the next side. And I hope at some point he makes his presence known to us. And
he will. I'll tell you this much. He loved our listeners so much, and he loved doing readings for them. He loved being on the show. I think he was amazed at you're going to think this is kind of funny. He was amazed at the reach of this show. And even though he had his own show in Chicago, years before he even ran into us, he was amazed at the reach of our show, being on Coast to Coast, on Midnight in the Desert, and just the people, the kindness of the people that listen to this show. And he enjoyed his interactions with every single one of you. So he really did. His last years were really quite enjoyable.
He was a good man and a good friend of the show. And, I'm so glad that we got to meet him in person at the Chicago Paranormal Conferences. I recommended him to Ursula, and she brought him in a few times, and he loved that. And my mom and aunt loved Joe Who and would hang out with him at these conferences. And he was just such a sweet, gentle soul. And he's going to be sorely missed, by the entire community. I remember him telling me that we collapsed his website when he was on our show. We collapsed his website when he was on Coast to Coast with me. And he was always boggled by that. So I'm glad that we made that connection. And that's one of the kicks from doing podcast version is there's no way to do the live interaction with mediums and talents like Joe.
if you want to hear something funny, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's pertinent to this point. I get a phone call from Joe. He would call me from time to time when things were tough, and he'd go, "Okay, Timmy, what's wrong?" That would be the first thing out of his mouth in that voice. Timmy, what's wrong? He wouldn't say hi. He wouldn't say, how you doing, pal, or anything like that. He'd say, Timmy, what's wrong? And I'd say, well, what do you mean, Joe? And he'd say, well, something's wrong. I got a feeling something's wrong. What's wrong? So I'd say, well, what is the feeling you're getting? I'd try to prime him to say what's wrong. The other thing he was always worried about was, he'd say, well, does Dave not like me? Now, this is what...
Yeah, I know.
He'd say, well, does Dave not like me? No, Dave loves you. Why would you think Dave doesn't like you? Well, I haven't been on the show lately. Well, Joe, and sometimes he would have like this short-term memory thing where I'd have to remind him. Well, I haven't been on the show lately. Well, Joe, we're a podcast now. We don't have a way to screen callers live. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. And, hell, we probably could have had Joe on once a week and people would have loved it.
Yeah.
But, to keep things fresh, you don't keep going to the same trough. And I wish we would have gone to the same trough a little more often, but it was nice. When I was called out or had something come up last minute and I couldn't do the show, or we had a guest drop out, we always could count on Joe, and he would jump in at a heartbeat to be with us, and really just amazing. But I that's one of the things we sacrificed doing the podcast. And I'd found that, well, there is an interesting thing now that I'm doing these live StreamYards on Thursday night, we might be able to do this again. And that's what I was thinking. And I figured, well, this would be a great way to get Joe Who heard again and seen, and he could do live sessions for people and do that. So we might still do that in the future. As a matter of fact, we just reconnected with a friend of ours, Marianne Winkowski, the real ghost whisperer. So she is interested in coming back on the show. So hopefully we will have her on and we could do a live video stream one Thursday night, and some, listeners can join in, and she'll be able to connect and see if their house is haunted. And we'll try to do some more of those fun deals. The podcast version will air on Friday, but if you want to be a part of the live ones, start tuning in on Thursday nights. Speaking of this Thursday night, we're back with another episode of Holzer's Ghosts. We are coming to the end, folks. We've only got a handful of episodes left to do. Shane Pittman is joining me, as well as one of our producers for this episode. We're going to re-examine the Ocean-born Mary case. And I'm excited to look at this story and the behind the scenes again on this. And it had so many twists and turns. This was one of my favorite episodes from season 1. So we're going to be talking about that this Thursday night, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Mountain Time. So you can find it on Darkness Radio's YouTube page, or you can find it on our social media pages. We make the link available there. Okay, let's get started. We've got a lot of news to cover, Tim.
All right.
We've got a lot of emails and a phone call, believe it or not, beyond the veil phone call thing here. But I don't know what they're called. Voices from Beyond. How can I, this many years in, why? Because nobody calls anymore. Everybody just insists on emailing.
Yeah.
Our Voices from Beyond voicemail, we do have a call. We're going to play that in a little bit. All right. We've got our first story coming out, Jedward from star Edward Grimes visited by spirits after appendix surgery. I feel out of the loop because I do not know who this young fella is. He took to social media to tell fans about his paranormal experience and describe the feelings of calm and love that he experienced. One half of the twin pop duo Jedward. Never heard of Jedward. Have you, Tim?
I had tickets the other day, and I had to skip it because I had this thing I had to do. I had to wash my hair.
Aerobics, yeah. One half of twin pop duo Jedward has told fans that he was visited by spirits after a hospital visit. Edward Grimes, I keep wanting to say Grimley when I look at it. Edward Grimes was rushed to the hospital over the weekend for emergency surgery to remove his appendix, which he described as a very scary and life-threatening situation. Following his discharge on Monday, the 29-year-old shared that he was visited by what he believes to be his dead relatives, welcoming him back after his surgery. He took to social media to tell fans about this paranormal experience and describe the feelings of calm and love that he experienced. The former Eurovision sensation wrote, "I'm back home and I've seen 2 white spirit auras radiating energy in my room. Honestly, I think it's past family members welcoming me back. I'm not an expert in the area, but I know the energy I felt, and it was very present. This has happened in the past in 2 other locations, so I know what I'm seeing." Edward described seeing almost a glow of energy radiating, a pulsing effect, and added that he felt the sense of calm and love surrounding him. He admitted that he had been skeptical of other people's paranormal sightings in the past until he had experienced the presence of spirits himself. "You aren't alone. There are guardian angels or energies around us," the Lucan native added. Edward documented his hospital stay on Jedward's social media accounts and joked that it was such an eventful few days that he may write a book chapter about it someday. This is a very janky website that does not want to scroll. "The most insane hospital trip of my life." And now it's scrolling all on its own. So Be careful what you say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the Jedward curse.
Yeah, it's such an eventful time. It's going to be like a chapter in a book someday or just in my thoughts, but I've experienced so much emotions in the last 48 hours, the warmest, kindest energy. Most insane hospital trip of his life. There we are, and had the most kind, caring soul next to me. I met someone else who I could marry someday, he said. Wow. So not only did he find loved ones waiting for him to welcome him back through the veil, but old Jedward star found love. I'm looking at the picture. This is a picture of them in concert, Tim. They look like they're right up our radio listeners' alley. I'm going to send you a picture of these 2 knuckleheads. Okay. This is Jedward. They look like they're dressed in silver alien costumes with high boots and gold shoulder pads. I don't know.
It's kind of like they jacked Ace Frehley for part of his outfit, and then they took part of their stuff from Willy Wonka.
They took all the cool parts,
and
turned them gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're from. Yeah.
I don't either. Eurovision. So Europe?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like Ace Frehley meets Eurovision.
Yeah. Well, no, that's where they're from. They're from Eurovision.
Oh, good God.
I guess they're on TV and stuff out there. I don't know. No. Jedward. You'd think they'd have come up with a better name.
Yeah, Jedward's not a good name.
Yeah, no, it's not really. Hey, we've got email stories to share as well. Let's take a dive into an email here.
Sure.
And a question. Let's see what this one says. Dave, first, thank you for taking the time to read this email. I'm a huge fan of Holzer Files and currently listening to your podcast. I'm a 20-year service member in the Army. Well, thank you for serving. As of June of this year, I've been interested in the paranormal for many years. I can't say that I've experienced anything. There is a chance I may have and just not realized it. Now, in your experience, how can someone with my military experience fit into the paranormal investigative community? I have deployed many times in various roles, most of them being part of a small team, like 4 to 6 people, and also running the operations cell. Again, I appreciate what you do and breaking things down. I honestly believe you are the most informative of the investigators out there. Thank you again for taking time to read my email. Looking forward to hearing from you. And that comes from Michael. Michael, thank you very much for the flattering words and for watching the Holzer Files and tuning into Darkness Radio. We appreciate that. I would say just, maybe even just put together your own team. Talk. You may have a couple other friends in the military that are also fascinated by the paranormal, and begin easy. Visit a few locations with recorders and, regular handheld video cameras, even your phone. I mean, it's got all you need on it. It's got an audio recorder. It's got a video and camera. So you've kind of got the best tool to start with and just start to get used to being in these locations. Just invest yourself a little bit into being in a location. And you know what? You may say, but I don't have access. Start doing it in your hotel room. Start doing it at church. Start doing it at locations that you're at, because you never know. And you could get into a lot of cemeteries, walk about, and maybe even visit a fresh grave and see if there's a spirit still lingering. That would be the way I would say to begin, just to kind of get your wheels under you. But, go with a purpose. You seem like you're an adventure-driven guy, and if you're there to help and get answers, that's fantastic. There are like-minded individuals out there, and you may even want to look into meetup.com. There may be paranormal teams looking to form in your area, or form one, So that's how I would say you should get started. And even though you haven't had experiences, doesn't mean that you're not a valued member of the team. Having somebody like you who can direct and run an operation sometimes is the most important part, finding everybody else's strengths and putting them to work so that they can do their job.
That's actually a show I would watch on TV. And in all seriousness, a paramilitary paranormal TV show.
I would as well. And here's the kicker. There was a paramilitary show to hunt Bigfoot that was pitched, and I think would have been amazing. Why not take some of the best and put them out there? Yeah. Former Navy SEALs, Green Beret, Army Rangers. And I knew one of the guys involved in that. And unfortunately, he was met with a very, they don't want, sometimes on TV, they don't want that kind of pedigree. They kind of prefer,
someone bumbling in the woods.
Yes. Mm. Yeah. So that's been it. But now that there's been some great strides made in that, I think maybe they should reattempt that concept and look into getting back out there to see if they can find Bigfoot, or any of these cryptids. Because who else would you want? You get this tactical team that could drop and boots on the ground at any time. That's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
In my book. Like you said, whether it's ghosts or cryptids. Our next email comes from Abby. Hey, Dave and Tim.
Hiya.
I have a few scary paranormal encounters. However, the one I felt prompted to share. Oh, see, she's sitting us up front telling us I've got a lot of stories, but you're only going to get one. I have a few scary paranormal encounters. However, the one I felt prompted to share is an encounter that basically saved my life. I was visiting some friends in Guatemala, and we went to Flores for a night on our way to Tikal. Flores is a beautiful tourist city that is built on an island surrounded by a very deep lake. There was a little dock right by our hotel, and we decided to go swimming after dinner. I'm terrified of jumping into water, so I normally find some stairs and go in that way. However, the stairs were full of slippery moss, and I was convinced to just jump in. I panicked halfway through the jump, which caused me to sink down into the depths of the lake. I'm not sure how long I was sinking when I heard a very distinct voice say, "Swim." It sounded like someone was right next to me telling me to do this. So if you're underwater, maybe it sounded more like this, Tim. Swim!
Oh, yeah, probably.
As soon as I heard the voice, I started swimming up toward the surface of the water. When I broke the surface, my friends were panicking, saying that I was under for quite some time and that they were preparing to jump in after me. Because I was so disoriented when I fell in, I know that disembodied voice saved my life. I know that there are people from the other side who are watching over and protecting us. Thank you. And that comes from Abby. Thank you, Abby. What a great story.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. You know what's creepy?
What's that?
This is why I don't like swimming at night. Well, first of all, sharks, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and anything else underwater. But my main reason, Tim, is because if you swim at night, I've been told by those in the know, if you jump in and like you're diving or doing like a somersault or something silly into the water, you can actually get disoriented.
Yeah.
I think you're swimming up when you're swimming down.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, how do you think? No, I know my way up.
Well, that's the thing. You automatically look, if you get disoriented, you automatically look for the lighter shade or the sunshine or whatever it is you're looking for in order to gain your bearings and go to the top or to the surface. That's one of the main reasons I don't like night swimming either. And you can feel free to sing your REM song now. But I don't night swim either. I am not a fan. No.
Nope. Creepy. Well, Tim, let's go inside Sydney's most haunted road. Ghost hunters explore a terrifying highway locals say is haunted by the ghost of a slain hitchhiker called Kelly. Is there any creepier ghost than a ghost named Kelly, Tim?
Especially if it's Irish, yeah.
Yeah. It's Australian. A pair of ghost hunters investigating a paranormal Australian highway claim to have encountered the spirit of a slain hitchhiker while wandering the road late at night. Sydney's Wakehurst Parkway, a stretchway of road winding through bushland in the city's northern beaches, is known for falling into near total darkness at night and for being the scene of one of Australia's most gruesome slayings. At nearby Deep Creek Reserve in 1994, Stephen Dempsey, age 34, was shot with a crossbow by murderer Richard Leonard, who then stored the body in a freezer. Now, legend has it, the hitchhiker called Kelly, a nun dressed all in white, appears on the back seats of the road's passing drivers in the hope of capturing a lift home. Urban explorers from the YouTube series EFTW, the Haunted series, have filmed their attempts to speak to unearthly forces they claim roam the parkway. In one scene, the filmmakers, Ricky and Brendan, tested whether they could identify the force by using dowsing rods. Ghost hunters claim the rods allow them to communicate to spirits. If we're speaking to multiple spirits, can you move the rods to my right-hand side? If we're talking to one spirit, can you move the rods to my left? Ricky asked as he held the rods in the darkness. After a few seconds, one of the rods swung to the left to join the other, which the ghost hunters claimed was a sign that they were speaking to a single spirit. They then claimed to further narrow down its identity by asking if it was female, and then it was rumored if it was the rumored force known as Kelly. Each time the rods went in the direction of yes. The pair were left unconvinced, though, as to whether the road truly was haunted. I really want to get some solid evidence of whether, yes, it's haunted or no, it's not. You guys might go to the same place and have nothing happen, Ricky said. The explorers' experiences follow other unnerving goings-on the highway. They've had reports of pedestrians crossing lights flashing at 3 a.m. with no one around, windscreen wipers suddenly switching off and the car's doors locking on their own. That's what the Manly Daily reported. So there's a lot of crazy activity taking place on that road. Psychic medium Mary Loughlin has claimed to have encountered Kelly on a number of occasions while passing a church on the road and said a buzz will happen on her radio or her car doors begin to lock on their own. The first time I took the road was about 6 years ago. It was about 2 a.m. and I had this feeling of someone touching the back of my neck. It felt like a cold hand on a cold day, she told the newspaper. She is like a white veiled apparition of a girl in the back seat. Ms. Loughlin said her daughter was also witness for two apparitions while driving on Wakehurst Parkway at night and suspects Kelly haunts motorists after suffering a tragic past. Most hauntings are in place where there has been a tragedy. I feel Kelly is either lost or has a message to deliver. She's not an evil presence, but one that's traumatized. She is saying, I need a lift out of here. Samantha Fisher, 22, told the newspaper her mother suddenly blacked out at the wheel while she was driving in 1998. She said her mother claimed to not be tired at the time and was definitely not asleep when she blacked out. Meanwhile, filmmaker Bianca Biasi, who is producing a documentary called Haunted Shores, said actors started behaving odd on set when they visited the spot Stephen Dempsey's body was dumped by Richard William Leonard. Filming was said to be so confronting that a number of crew members became physically ill and sensed presences and vowed never to return to the site. Ex-cab driver Hala Ua also described a chilling paranormal activity encounter he had with a nun who he claims appeared inside his car. There was a gray silhouette of a thin young woman in the mirror, apparently sitting on the middle of the rear seat and sort of staring back at me. She was in kind of a white gown and a headdress like a Christian nun, he wrote. I couldn't really see her face clearly, just the shape of her face and the deep green eyes. Yes, sad, deep green eyes, but she was definitely real and sitting there staring back at me in that precise moment. He later heard from a passenger, a Scottish nun died on the road 40 years ago. Legend has it, she has been haunting drivers there ever since. Other drivers have spoken online of cars breaking down unexpectedly before feeling a shiver run down their spines. Also looming over the stretch of road is the murder of an 8-year-old Graham Thorne in 1963, whose suitcase and personal effects were found across Wakehurst Parkway. So it sounds like it's a crazy-ass place if you want to go investigate a highway, but highways just don't seem like the kind of place I'd want to go hit, Tim.
No.
Yeah, kind of crazy. Let's do this. Before our break, I've got 2 stories to share. We've got one from Newsweek, and we've got one from a caller. First, from Newsweek, a man confesses to killing and dismembering his roommate, and who he sells the body parts to is quite alarming, Tim. A 34-year-old man in Nigeria allegedly confessed that he killed and dismembered his roommate in order to sell the body parts to a pastor for dark ritual purposes, according to local media reports. The suspect allegedly killed his roommate in an area in Balizia, Nigeria. According to a neighbor who spoke to authorities anonymously, the gentleman, who is from Delta State, Nigeria, killed the victim after inviting him to the town for a 2-week visit. The Guardian Nigeria reported on Tuesday. The neighbor told police that the Okapegbro stuck and the guy's name is Okapegbro. The neighbor told police that Okapegbro struck and killed the victim with a pestle in the middle of the night. Following the attack, Okapegbro moved to dismember the victim's body while preserving his vital organs. After killing him, he dismembered the body, preserved the vital organs, and put the other parts in separate sacks, which he disposed of in the early hours of the following day, the neighbor said, according to The Guardian. The anonymous neighbor said that while Okapegbro was disposing of the sacks, another neighbor saw suspicious activity and demanded to know the whereabouts of his roommate. The suspect claimed that the deceased had traveled back to Delta State for an urgent business. Not satisfied with the response, the neighbor forced his way into the room and saw blood stains everywhere, the anonymous neighbor said. Upon interrogation before he was handed over to the police, the suspect confessed that he had sold the vital organs of his friend to a pastor in Port Harcourt, who is currently at large for ritual purposes. How creepy is that?
Incredibly creepy.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Nigerian police, Sagbama division, was alerted, and it led to the arrest of a young man in the Sagbama Federated Community suspected to have been the perpetrator of this ungodly act. They added, wow. You just bring somebody on, murder them, take their parts, and sell them to a pastor. Of all people, a pastor for dark rituals. Yeesh. All right, listen, folks, we've got a call. I do want to give a small warning, Tim. Small trigger warning. This does take place in the 80s during a lot of the Catholic Church scandals.
Yes. Yeah.
It is a paranormal story. It is a creepy story. But if you are triggered by, the sexual abuse charges from the Catholic Church, you may want to skip over the story. But because the listener wanted to share it with us, we will give them the opportunity to air the story, which I think all of you will find chilling. All right, let's hear the call.
Hey, Dave and Tim, longtime listener, big fan. So I've been meaning to call for a long time. I'm a Boston kid. Grew up all my life in Boston. Irish family, Irish Catholic. My cousins, my grandfather, my aunts, we all lived in the same house. You know, that normal story, multi-family, the Irish family sticks together in Boston. So, I mean, that being said, we all went to Catholic schools our whole life. My aunt worked at the rectory. My other aunt was a Eucharistic minister. So, we were really close with the priests and everything like that. And I mean, not to sing that same old song and dance, but, you know, Boston in the 80s, the Catholic Church. So, one night a priest comes over to our house for dinner. First time ever. He was the new pastor of our church. And after he left, in the middle of the night, vicious banging in the walls. Now, at first we thought it was, maybe it was an animal, and we were scared, but, okay, we can explain that away. But then it started to jump up wall to wall, and it was like somebody was inside the wall with a baseball bat, and it was bouncing wall to wall, upstairs, downstairs, and it was almost like the whole house was caving in on us. We called the cops. We didn't know what to do. Cops came out at like 3, 4 in the morning. They looked at each other. They said, "Oh, I don't know. You need a priest." In hindsight, that was pretty funny. So, not knowing, then maybe about an hour later, it just stopped. From the house wanting to fall in on itself to it just stopping. So come to find out years later, when they were doing the investigations into the church, Catholic Church scandal, this priest was one of the most rampant child molesters that they had in New England. He went to jail. I think he died in prison. But now, I don't know what that was. Was that something bad following him? Was that something warning us, like this guy is bad news? But that was the only time it happened, and nothing has ever happened in that house since. So I just thought it was really interesting. All right, have a good day, guys. Appreciate you guys. Love the show. Bye.
Holy shnikes, that's a hell of a tale.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, well, thank you. And if you'd like to call in and share your stories of the supernatural, 651-300-4977. 651-300-4977. Now that we're back out into the world, living and breathing and laughing again, and maybe you're getting out to see things, explore, and you start to have these activities, call in and share your story. We'd love to hear your voice. Tell us your tale. 651-300-4977. Our Voices from Beyond voicemail. Speaking of getting back out there, I just came back from Mansfield Reformatory, the big event that took place there this past weekend. What an amazing event. A lot of fun. I was there with Ben Hansen from Ghosts of Morgan City and with Amy and Adam Bruni. Well, not that it's Adam Barry and Amy Bruni from Kindred Spirits. I don't want people to think, oh my God, Dave just announced they got married. That would be a surprise to both Amy's husband and Adam's husband. Right. But yeah. Adam Barry, Amy Bruni, and of course the Ghost Brothers, Dalen, Jawan, and Marcus were on hand, and we had a great time. I want to ask if there was anybody there for my talk. There were some people that videotaped it. Please contact me. I'd like to get a copy of that. Tim, I've always wanted to be a stand-up comic, but I don't have the stomach for it. Oh. I love doing these talks, but I pretty much for 45 minutes did a stand-up routine on Sunday. Okay. And it was so fulfilling for me. People were just boisterously laughing out loud for 45 minutes, and we had such a great time. I would love a copy of that just to, say that I've kind of achieved my goal of being a stand-up comic. Jamie Kaler, the comedian's like, Schrader, we really need to go book a couple of comedy clubs and you could be my opener. I'm like, no, dude, listen, I can be funny at live events when I'm talking about a topic where everybody there digs it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if jokes about Zach Bagans' tight black T-shirts are going to do it for your audiences.
Yeah.
And the situational comedy that comes with being in the moment of the paranormal. But we had such a good time. And Tim, you would have loved it because a lot of it was at my cost. This one woman, very sweet woman who was a big fan of the show, saw me upstairs, and she literally started shaking like a chihuahua. And she came running over to me and she's like, oh my God, I love the Holzer Files. John, you're my favorite. And she gave me a big hug.
John?
Yeah. And then we go down and she apologizes in front of the crowd that, I'm sorry for calling you John. I couldn't remember your name. So I had a good laugh on that. But then we just talked about how I'm often mistaken for either Jason Hawes. I said people either mistake me for Jason Hawes, Rick from Pawn Stars, or look at me and go, oh, Bruce Willis, what happened to you? And just had a fun time with this conversation and kind of riffing. And then I was, a lot of it, like I said, ended up just being a good slam on me, but I had a good time laughing and leading the laughter. But what a great crowd. You could tell people were just happy to be out again.
Yeah.
And living. And it was, those of us celebrities, we all had to have had our shots. We all had our shots. We had to wear masks in a lot of the situations, but for photos and stuff, we didn't. And people, it's weird. You still have that kind of uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
But it was exciting. Nonetheless, you and I, my two work wives are meeting. Tim Dennis, Shane Pittman are going to both be with me at Phenomenology in Gettysburg coming up in next week.
Yeah.
God, I can't believe it's already coming up next week. We're flying out there Wednesday. The event's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll be coming home on Sunday. If you're interested, phenom2020.com. Yes, I know it's 2021, but it was originally booked for last year. Had to get moved to this year, but they've got a huge slew of paranormal celebrities that are going to be on hand. It's going to be a great time for all. I hope that you'll come on out and spend some time with us. It's going to be great to reunite with so many of our friends. Jason Gowan from the Parents Lounge is going to be there. Tim Dennis from Darkness Radio. Shane Pittman from the Holzer Files. So we're going to be doing some fun talks, having a great time. I hope you guys will come out and check that out. For keeping up on all the locations we're going to be at. And I'm going to be at least 1 to 2 locations every month between now and February. Go check out darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. But come see us next week in Gettysburg for a great event. All right, got to take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to discuss right after this. Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's always a pleasure to bring you the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave, that's Tim, and today is a Parashare Supernatural News Day. We've got a lot going on, a lot of cool stories to share. But first, let's take a look at this week's Theater of the Mind. Today's Theater of the Mind with a friend like Alan. A real-life encounter from Amanda Marie. When people feel homesick, there's always a specific city, a specific town, a very particular house that they always return to in their minds. It's the place they learned to walk, the place where they took that first big tumble off a bike. It's an image so full of nostalgia that it can soothe any anxiety. I grew up a laid-off brat, not a Navy brat. My parents were just very unlucky. And I had lived in 6 different houses and 2 different states by the time I reached 16. So the home I run to in my mind isn't my birthplace. It's the house we moved when I was 11. The house where I met Alan. My mother, stepfather, and I had been living in a small apartment in the suburbs for the last year when they finally found their dream house. It was only a rental place, but it was still the best place I'd ever been. At that time, Mount Pleasant was a single stoplight farming community in the rolling hills of the North Carolina Piedmont. The house, a 1-story brick ranch, sat on 7 acres of land with its own pond, creek, and massive trail system butting up against a dense forest. To top it off, the neighbors had the most adorable Jersey cows named Jack and Jill. What more could this only child, animal-loving, adventurous little girl ever want? It was a literal paradise for me. The house had the most interesting layout of anywhere I'd ever lived. It was long, and if you opened all the doors, it made a complete oval, something I readily took advantage of, whipping around the hardwood floors with the dogs scampering after me. But the back hallway, where 2 bedrooms and the laundry room were located, immediately felt off. My first bedroom was one of those, the other being used for storage. I never slept well in that room, and the dog was always restless, grumbling or growling throughout the night. Around the same time, too, things would go missing, only to turn up days later in the strangest places. One day, all the forks were gone. The next, we found them in the stove. Car keys wound up in the bathtub, scissors under a couch cushion. I was lucky enough my parents never blamed me, they just thought it was funny. It wasn't until the doors started slamming and the lights started clicking on and off that things started to get serious. All the while, the feeling in that back hallway was getting worse and worse. All night long, it felt like I was being watched. Trying to do laundry was a nightmare. All you could feel was the hair on the back of your neck, your hackles raised as that ancient lizard part of the brain screamed, "Danger!" You got in and out as fast as you could. When my bed went through the floor one day, I'm assuming there were termites on that corner of the house, I moved into the master bedroom. My parents went to another room at the opposite end of the house. They hated that back hallway too. But with this new bedroom, I was still the closest to that back hallway, just one door away. At night, the door would rattle. I thought about putting a bookcase in front of it, but instead, my family's stereotypical stubbornness kicked in, and I refused to back down against whatever evil thing was attempting to traumatize us. On a sunny day, with both parents at work, I opened all the doors, creating that oval circuit I loved so much. I strapped on my rollerblades and skated through the house, yelling at whatever was in the house. "We live here too, and we're not leaving. I don't care that you were here first. We're here now." I came on the back hallway, and I'm not sure what made me say it, but I followed up with, "You don't have to leave if you want. Pick a room and that'll be yours, but you can't scare us anymore." After that moment, the door to the storage room became stuck. It didn't matter what we did, we just simply couldn't get the door open. The door wasn't locked, the handle would just still turn, but it just wouldn't budge. You could see from the outside that nothing had fallen against it. There was absolutely no reason for it to remain stuck through all 4 seasons. Parents initially thought it was swelling in the wood, but when winter came and it still wouldn't open, we threw that theory out. And when the door closed, things drastically changed. I never felt uneasy or watched. Doors stopped slamming. I could do laundry in peace. Things would still go missing, but they'd show up maybe an hour later, right in plain sight. It was like living with a precocious roommate, but it quickly shifted into a comforting presence. I had been very sick, to the point of needing a home health aide to come out to place a long-term IV PICC line that went from my inner elbow directly into my aorta. She had been out before to put this little butterfly IV ports in, but this one was much bigger, and the needle was enormous against my little arm. She tried about 3 times before she actually managed to fit it in, and there was blood everywhere. The blue sanitary paper covering the kitchen table turned a horrific crimson. My stepfather had to go outside just to throw up. I was terrified, shaking, crying as hard as I had ever done before. I went into my room to get away from everyone once she'd left, and the door to the back hallway popped open. There weren't any footsteps, but I felt a hand on my shoulder, and this feeling of concern and comfort just washed over me, like the feeling you get when hugging your best friend after something stressful. I don't know where it came from, but the name Alan popped into my head, and he was Alan from then on out. He became my friend. I would talk to him. I told him about my day, told him about all the hard things in my life, and I knew he was listening. He was always there, watching, existing side by side with us. When the landlords decided to give the house to their children, forcing us to leave prematurely, I was devastated. I absolutely loved this house and the property, but I felt like I was abandoning my friend. I had no say in the matter, but it still didn't change the fact I was losing him. Now, nearly 20 years later, when I'm homesick, I go back to that house in the woods. I go back to where my friend Alan is, and I wonder if he would remember me if I ever set foot in that house again. I hope that he's going easy on whoever's living with him now and that they appreciate his presence, because I certainly did. I truly believe that setting the ground rules and allowing him his own space changed the game for us. He was never evil. He just acted like any other person would if someone moved into their house without permission. I imagine he was just as confused and afraid as we were. But he wasn't evil. He was human. He was Alan. And he was my friend. let's dive back into it. We actually have some actualities. Some actualities, Tim. How about that?
Actualities.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say. Let's start off with a visit to the White House, shall we? Jenna Bush Hager is very vocal about the fact that she and her sister had some paranormal activity take place in their home, but their mother, Laura Bush, has also stepped out of the shadows now to kind of denounce her daughters. And Jenna Bush Hager is taking offense. As a matter of fact, this is kind of an angry video. And Tim, just so you know, I mean, it's the one. I think I gave you just the link for the audio, so we're good. This was the Kelly Clarkson show, and you'll get to hear not only from Jenna, but you'll get to hear from her mother Laura, and then Jenna's rebuttal to this. Which tell me if she doesn't sound really distressed and unnerved by her mom. So let's go ahead and hear the tale of the haunted White House.
So during the interview, my mom started talking. She was there for her Nature Conservancy organization in Texas, but she started talking about ghosts in the White House. So can we just say...
Well, first of all, let's be true. Okay, so you went on Kelly Clarkson's show, and Kelly asked you if you thought the White House was haunted. And here's what you had to say. So this is the first piece of evidence.
True or false? There are ghosts in the White House.
True.
Never going.
True. Barbara and I were going to sleep. Our rooms were right next to each other. And it was in college when people would call late. So our phone rang and I woke up and all of a sudden we heard like 1920s piano music coming out of our fireplace.
Exaggerate. No, that is
People
true.
say you exaggerate. Sources and your bestie Savannah said you exaggerate.
Why did she say that? I take offense to that.
Okay,
and I
but was there
appreciate
really...
you for saying 1920s music is creepy. Thank you for having my back.
It is creepy. So you really did hear it.
I really did hear it, and we can call my sister on speakerphone if people disagree. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
We can do that, but would you like to see what my mom said first?
Yes.
We had Jenna on this show. I love your daughter, by the way. She's so fun. I kind of feel like we were separated at birth every time we hang out. But she mentioned that the White House was haunted. Did you ever experience that?
No, we never. I think Barbara and Jenna were the ones that felt like it was haunted and pretended like they heard voices. And it's probably just the Secret Service talking down the hall in another room that they heard. But we didn't think it was haunted. We love living there. It's a magnificent house.
Okay,
well,
it is a magnificent house.
Your mother basically said, no, wasn't
Shall
haunted.
we do some research into can the Secret Service play 1920s piano music?
Clearly.
And I'll just add a little extra point into this. We can call Barbara in the close if you'd like.
Oh, is that right?
We can call Barbara and put her on speakerphone.
Okay.
Why not? But I will just add a little point to this. When I left, I was working at a school that summer, and I left. And what we did to put ourselves to sleep is there is a piano outside our room. We pretended the cat must have gotten on the piano, okay? I left the room. There's an incredible man, Buddy, who still works at the White House. We adored him. And I said, Buddy, you wouldn't believe what Barbara and I heard last night. And he goes, oh, Jenna, you wouldn't believe what I've seen in these walls. So who wrote the please?
So now Buddy is on Team Jenna.
Yeah, Buddy is on my team. My sister is on my team. I love my mom. The ghost might just not have been into her.
Maybe not. All right.
Yeah, the ghosts just aren't that into you, Laura Bush.
Yeah.
But did you hear how defensive Jenna Bush was?
Oh boy, was she ever.
Well, she was not happy. But, well, we can call my sister if you don't believe me. And I'm offended that she said that. I just love that she's like so spun out that her best friend says she exaggerates. And and her mom was so dismissive. Her mom was like, well, they like to pretend they would hear voices. But good old Buddy came to their rescue. What you don't know is that Buddy's a ghost too, Tim. I don't know that to be true.
Well, it's the Bruce Willis Sixth Sense deal, you know.
Yeah. Very cool. I got to tell you something. It drives me nuts, and I apologize up front for any of the listeners that fall into this category. But if I have one more jackass tell me that they knew in the first 2 minutes of the movie that Bruce Willis was dead, you can kiss my ass. You did not know that.
Nobody knew that.
Oh, it was obvious. Yeah, after you watched it. Yeah, it was obvious when they go back and give you all the moments. You didn't know it. Yeah. Don't give me that.
Nobody
Don't
knew it.
give me that.
Nobody knew it.
pisses me off. I can't tell you, because people are like, oh yeah, any meme I see about the Sixth Sense, some jackass has to go pronounce that they knew, and they knew immediately that he was dead. You didn't know it. You read it before you went in to see it. Your stupid neighbor told you. That's how you knew it. You didn't just figure it out on your own. You know how I know? Because I happen to be a movie genius, and I couldn't figure it out, Tim.
I didn't.
It's true. I am a movie genius. Go ahead and ask my wife. She'll tell you. I tell her that all the time.
Well, I bet you do.
You figured out through the movie that he was dead?
No, I had no idea.
Okay, I thought you said I did. Yeah.
No. I had no idea. No, I said no, that's not what I said. I had no idea either. I was sitting there, and it completely flabbergasted me when it was revealed that he was actually dead. I was like, wow, that is an awesome twist.
And I wonder right now how many people are going to email me going, hey, I haven't seen it. Well, too bad. It's been 20 years. That's your problem, not mine.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. You still don't know the end of The Sixth Sense. That's on you. Well, if there's something strange in your neighborhood, Tim, who are you going to call?
Probably the neighborhood dog catcher.
No. And you don't call the police either.
No.
This is the message from officers at 911 call that would have been more suitable for Ghostbusters. This next story, Tim. One Hayward's Heath resident called the emergency services to report their neighbor for paranormal activity. This almost should fall under our dumb crime, stupid criminals, but I had to share it. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
On Friday night, the unnamed caller claimed that a ghost had been sent to their house to haunt them. Officers gave some reassuring words, but explained that they only deal with genuine emergencies. Sussex police have now issued a reminder around when you should and shouldn't use the emergency 999 call. Mid-Sussex Neighborhood Police Inspector Darren Taylor said that phone call late last night from a resident stating that their neighbor had sent an angry ghost into their house to haunt them. Some reassuring words were given, and also words of advice offered to as well to how you should go about using 911 or 999 there for emergencies only. Sussex police received more than 18,599,000 calls a month.
Oh,
this has got to be wrong. Oh, yeah. You know what it is? I'm a moron. It's 18,500 999 calls a month. This guy just spaced it out weirdly. It looked like one giant number. So they receive 18,500 911 calls. I'm just going to say it's easier. Officers have previously warned that nuisance calls can make it harder for people to report genuine emergencies. Well, maybe it was a genuine emergency. If you think your neighbor sent over an angry ghost, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. I can't wait to see that new movie, dude. Have you seen the one scene that they released with Paul Rudd and the baby Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
That looks so good. Are you into this? Are you excited about the new movie?
I am, but I'm cautiously excited. The last Ghostbusters movie kind of snake bit me. I know it wasn't,
but the last one wasn't.
I know
Ghostbusters movie by the same cast and crew. It was new people, Paul Feig, and
I know.
And again, I had nothing. I'm not. Oh, it's because you two are sexist pigs.
No, it's not that. It's not.
Here's what I will tell you: those women were cheated. They're all brilliant comedian actresses. They were given a shit script and bad special effects. There were a few highlights, but even the cameos from the original Ghostbusters were so lame. Just so lame. They could have done something so much more brilliant with that movie. And I really wish it would have been a handover movie, because I think that which is what they're going to do with this new one. And I think that those characters would have been fantastic in it. Independently, they were great in moments, but it was just not the movie did not support what they were hoping to do.
Yeah. The actors in that last Ghostbusters movie are much more talented than what the script actually was.
Direction.
Yeah. And so to me, it was just a huge disappointment. I guess to me, I'm trying not to buy into the buildup of this next movie so that I don't walk in and get hit in the face with disappointment. I guess
it's the charm of Paul Rudd, Tim. I don't care if it's just him spreading peanut butter on a sandwich. I'll enjoy it. He's such a delight. Dude, have you ever seen I Love You, Man?
I think it might have been like one of those things like it was on E.
If you
one
have
afternoon.
not watched I Love You, Man, watch it. Especially guys in our age range, Tim, I think are going to dig this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. I can never remember Jason something. He's one of the guys from How I Met Your Mother. He's the big tall guy. He's not Seth Rogen, but he kind of reminds me of him.
Yeah.
But he is so good. Paul Rudd is just this.
Jason Biggs.
Maybe. No, Jason Biggs was from like American Pie. No, okay. Jason something, and I can't remember the guy's name, and I apologize because I like him and he's a funny actor. But Paul Rudd plays such a perfect, awkward, nerdy guy that even though he's so damn good looking and sweet, you can accept the fact that he's also probably a nerd. And he does it so eloquently. It is just a great movie all the way around. It is a guy's movie. I'm sure there are a lot of women that enjoy it, but just it hits on everything that I see you and I in college and Guy in college. I just see so much of people I know in that movie. And it is one of my all-time favorite comedies. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of, I don't remember if I did this, but I wanted to do a review of the movie Spontaneous. Have you seen Spontaneous?
Spontaneous, no.
Okay. It's a really clever little movie. There are some of these movies that have gone under the wire, and it's on, I want to say it's Amazon Prime. But look it up. It's called Spontaneous. Basically, kids just spontaneously start exploding.
Jeez.
But it's this kind of rom-com movie dealing with this weird, and especially we watched this during the pandemic. And it had this kind of offbeat, dark humor to it, and it wasn't made because of the pandemic, but it just was. Maybe that's why not many people heard about it, or they didn't put it out because they're like, "Hey, the world's really going through something here." Mm-hmm. But this movie is clever. It's well written, well acted, well paced. It's a good little movie, Spontaneous, and it's totally in our wheelhouse of weird supernatural stuff. They can't figure out what's causing kids to just suddenly blow up. And there's some hysterical moments, a couple of really creepy moments. It's just a really good flick. So if you haven't seen Spontaneous, check it out. Let me know what you think about it once you've seen it.
The one I want to get out to see it, I guess there's no option to view at home. You have to go to a theater to see it, is a new Spiral movie with Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. I
believe that comes out this week on video on demand.
Does it?
I believe so. I think I remembered seeing, because I got the package that was sent to me by the movie company. I put up a video of it, and they gave me a couple of free passes to the movie. But they, I thought I remembered reading in the pamphlet that it's also going to be on video on demand soon. I think it was May 29th or something. So just keep an eye out for it, but it might be coming up. But yeah, that looks really good. And I actually have an extra set of passes to that movie I'll give you, Tim, so that you and intern Yoko can go check it out if you'd like.
Yeah, to me it's intriguing because I don't know if you've checked out Chris Rock in Fargo, but
no, I haven't.
He is now, everybody sees the comedic side of Chris Rock, but if you've checked him out in Fargo, he's taken a villain turn, and his dramatic acting is really, really good in Fargo. So if anything has translated from his acting from that to this, I think this will be very interesting. So
cool. Yeah, I'm interested in checking it out just to see where they take the Saw movies now. And this was Chris Rock's idea.
Yeah.
Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and to have Samuel L. Jackson on board for it, got to be good, right? So we're going to check that out. Well, Tim and I will try to go see it and then get back to you guys on this. Ghost hunters to the rescue, Tim, for this next story.
Mm-mm.
Two parents left their filthy and freezing 5-year-old naked daughter run around a dangerous mine shaft while they were drinking and smoking weed. The little girl was spotted undressed, wrapped only in a blanket at Wheel Francis Mine in Cornwall. Who found her? paranormal investigators who alerted the authorities. The pair from Essex, who are in their 20s, appeared at Truro Crown Court and pled guilty to cruelty to a person under 16. The girl's father has also admitted to possession of cannabis, reports Cornwall Live. Prosecutor Holly Gilbury described how last summer a group of paranormal investigators saw the girl, who was visibly underdressed. She's naked. That's more than underdressed.
Yeah.
That's not dressed.
Slightly.
And cold, running around the working mines, or the mine workings. Meanwhile, they said her parents were seen clearly drunk and smoking weed. As soon as police arrived at the scene, the girl's mother shouted that she had been raped. Yeah, it gets weirder. The little girl, who was found filthy and freezing, told cops that daddy didn't push mommy and that the pair just fight a lot. In the following days, there were further concerning reports about the girl's well-being after she was seen running around undressed outside toilets in Bowcastle, and after her parents' row, meaning fight, in Sainsbury's store in Helston. It was heard that the child is now safe and in the care of someone else. Sentencing Judge Robert Linford said, "This is not a case of deliberate cruel behavior, but a case of criminal neglect. You are both parents of this little girl, and with this honor comes heavy responsibilities. You neglected these and put your desires to get drunk and stoned above the needs of your little girl. You should both be ashamed. She was filthy. She was freezing. I'm pleased to hear she's in the care of someone else being looked after properly," he added before handing both of them a 2-year community order. The mother of the child was also given a 25-day rehabilitation activity requirement, while the father a thinking skills program requirement. The British are just too good, Tim.
Thinking skills?
Yes, you're going to have to go through thinking skills. All right, then. I think I'd like another hit of weed. Dudes and dudettes around the world, listen, I've put this claim out there. I will follow it up. I know during the height of the COVID, there was a lot of scary stories being told about parents doing horrible things and heinous things to their children out of losing their minds, feeling like the world might be coming to an end, or just out of complete mental breakdown. If you are at a point where you feel like harming your children and don't want them anymore, can't afford them, afraid that you cannot, email me, dave@darknessradio.com. I will be happy to adopt your children and add to the plethora of my children here. I would rather that happens than you do something that you will regret and that your children do not deserve. So please don't hurt children. Do not hurt children. Contact me. I'm telling you, Tim and I will take all your children. We'll just start the Darkness Radio community compound, and we will love and take care of your children. Don't hurt them, please. And the way I said that made it sound like we're a gay couple together raising children. No, Tim's got his own world. I've got my own world.
Yeah.
And we'll be happy to invest and take your children to protect them. Okay? Just don't hurt them.
Not that it would be the worst thing in the world if Dave and I were a gay couple adopting children, but, you know.
No, not at all.
No.
Not at all. But I realized that I was like, yes, contact me because Tim and I will take care of your children. That sounded weird. So please just do that. Reach out. And if not to us, reach out to somebody else. There are communities and places you can take your children. But don't hurt them. Please stop hurting children. Please. I'm begging you from the bottom of our hearts. Please. If you're in that realm and you are so depressed and you feel that your children, give them a chance to lead a better life and give them to us. We will take them. We will raise them. They will be fine individuals. Okay? Boy, it just unnerves me. Dude, I read so many news stories every week, going through looking for dumb crime, stupid criminals, so many that just break my heart.
Yeah.
And it's too much. Ugh. All right, we have another story. Listen, last week we were heavy on UFO stories.
Right.
And it was crazy. As a matter of fact, I've got a lot of great feedback. I'd love to know what you guys think of that episode last week where we played so many interesting news stories. But since then, as a matter of fact, right after we got done with that, another news story came out. Former President Barack Obama was talked to about UFOs. He was cornered about top secret intelligence during an interview in the Late Show with James Corden. Here's the audio from that interview.
It's impossible to forget the classic scene in the 1996 film Independence Day, when Bill Pullman's President Whitmore first finds out that America has known about aliens for decades.
Why the hell wasn't I told about this place? 2 words, Mr. President. Plausible deniability.
So just what do presidents and former presidents get briefed on, and what secrets might they have about alien life forms that have made their ways to Earth? Well, during an interview with former President Barack Obama on The Late Late Show with James Corden, band leader Reggie Watts asked him exactly that, and if he had a theory about, quote, them aliens. At first, the former president joked, but then revealed some fairly interesting presidential knowledge.
When it comes to aliens, there's some things I just can't tell you on air. The truth is that when I came into office, I asked, right? I was like, all right, is there the lab somewhere where we're keeping the alien specimens in spaceship? They did a little bit of research, and the answer was no.
But he goes on to say that there are records and footage of objects in the sky that we haven't identified yet, or fully understand how they move the way they do. And in a recent interview with CBS's 60 Minutes, a former U.S. Navy pilot divulged that trainees see unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, almost every day.
All right, what bothers me about that?
Yep.
You have a former fucking president of the United States on. You're asking him a pointed question. Well, obviously, I mean, the band leader, tell us about dem aliens is not necessarily journalistic integrity, but, he answers jokingly at first, but then, as I said, he gets serious and he starts talking about it. Mm-hmm. But James Corden, the dumbass, starts laughing, as does the audience. What you can't see in that audio is Obama was not.
Right. He
ends up getting kind of a smile on his face because, when he's like, I want to know, is there a place where we're keeping dead bodies in an alien craft? And you could see him kind of smile like, it sounds like a ludicrous question. But that's why nobody's taking this serious. You get a president on, you're asking him, and he's telling you, there's stuff I can't talk to you about. Oh, that wasn't a joke, dumbass. That was an answer in itself. I thought that was pretty cool. And then the fact that he's telling you, and there's more to this. You guys got to stop wasting those moments when you have somebody. Listen to what they're telling you without telling you is all I've got to say. I don't know.
Okay, but then you have to ask yourself, what is the laughter? Is the laughter uncomfortable laughter, or is it laughter at the subject? Because, a lot of times you get a band leader like Reggie, he asks the question, well, maybe he's a little nervous about what he's about to get. Because, I don't know how much of the Late Late Show you watch with James Corden. I watched a little bit over my time, but I'm not really a James Corden fan. But knowing a little bit that I know about Reggie, to me, it seems like he's interested in the subject, but to me, it also seems like, I'm going to get the same answer I always get. It's not so much nervous about the topic, but, okay, you're going to give me the same answer that I always get. I think he's
right, but it wasn't. I felt that Obama was giving us something a little different this time. And he said, there's just some things I cannot talk about. I thought that was it wasn't his tongue-in-cheek snarky that he's done in the past. And I get it that it was Reggie, but it was the fact that it was James Corden and like the studio audience that were laughing. And I don't know, it was one of those things that got under my skin because I was like, damn it, listen to him, hear what he's saying, and maybe push for one more little question.
But okay, you say it's something different, but how many other ex-presidents have said it's something I can't share or tell you? I mean, Clinton said that too. Clinton said it to Jimmy Kimmel.
The way a lot of them, I don't know. I can't break it down to the semantics for you, but this one didn't seem like, hey, it's, military stuff I can't talk about. This one felt more like, there's information, but I'm not at liberty to tell you. I don't know. It just felt more like he was leaning into that than the military side. But again, it's all an interpretation, which is exactly what they said is going to happen when this report is released. People are going to look at this information and some are going to see it meaning aliens. Some are going to see it meaning secret governmental projects. And I think that's why the government's taking so long to craft this document properly, is they're going to leave it in our laps without a definitive answer. So, and you and I talked about that last week on the show as well. So
that's I think it is going to be very vague. I don't think we're going to get an answer that.
Right. No, I'm with you. I have hopes is all I can say. Hey, there's something cool coming to our town, Tim.
What's that?
Next year. And I'm excited about this. I seriously am excited about this. Remember our Art of Darkness?
Yeah.
Deals that we did. Minneapolis Institute of Art is investigating the paranormal in supernatural America. The Minneapolis Institute of Art supposedly is haunted already, but now it's bringing in more ghosts. Contemporary art curator Bob Casalino has organized a touring show called Supernatural America, the Paranormal in American Art, which Mia says is the first major museum exhibition to examine artists' relationships to the supernatural. It's about the idea that spirits are unsettled and stick around to communicate, Casalino said. The show incorporates contemporary artists and their views and their voices in order to acknowledge contact between the spirit realm and the living and interplanetary beings in other dimensions. It's about fluidity in time and the experience of the past that won't stay quiet, that needs to be reckoned in some way. Supernatural America will begin its spooky tour June 12th at the Toledo Museum of Art. So for those of you near Toledo, Ohio, June 12th, check it out. Then travel to the Speed Art Museum in Louisville, Kentucky, Tim.
Oh, God.
Yeah, before winding up its run in Minneapolis, February 19th through May 15th of 2022. I'm going to reach out. I want to see if we can do a live broadcast from the museum amongst the art. I would also like to talk to them about doing a small-scale paranormal investigation leading up to that for PR.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. The show includes 150 works from the early 1800s all the way to present day by a wide range of American artists, from internationally recognized figures such as Betty Saar, Tony Ausler, and John Jota Leonis, to unrepresented artists. Some of those are 19th and 20th century spirit artists who say their art was made simply by allowing spirits to use them as the medium and guide their hand. Sections on topics such as apparitions, channeling spirits and ritual, plural universes, and UFOs dive into further examination of these mysterious worlds. The show is done with the point of view that respects artists and their point of view, said Casalino, and it's rooted in personal experience of the artists with the spirits. It wouldn't be a Haunted America show without deep dives into the history of our settler colonialism, creating a new way of channeling African American ancestors through spirit, and indigenous artists channeling visions from healing spirits. White settlers are haunted by their genocidal past, present, and future, said Leonis in a recent Zoom call. We do have the evidence of its colonial continual hauntings through people of color here. It's rumored that Mia's period rooms on the third floor are already haunted. Several instances recorded by the museum's audio tour suggests that this could be true. Strange things have happened in the Tudor room, which dates to around 1600 and evokes the style of Tudor and Elizabethan England. In spring of 2009, a member of the janitorial staff said he was cleaning a water fountain outside the Tudor room when he heard a door open and footsteps inside. He figured it was one of the guards, but after a few minutes realized no one had left the room. He soon found out that there weren't even any guards on the floor that night. Some say the Connecticut room, which has contents from a mid-18th century colonial house near New Haven, may also be haunted. Visitors to this room have reported feeling small tugs on their coats or the feeling that someone grasped their hand. One time, a guard came into the room to find all the shades drawn around the bed. Another person said they saw a tall, shadowy figure in the doorway. After a ghost hunting group spent the day searching the museum, they reported evidence suggesting that the ghost of a man is attached to the bed in this room. So that sounds cool, man. A full-on paranormal art show at the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
Yeah.
We're going to hit that up. I'm telling you. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited. When have you ever heard me say I'm excited about art?
Almost never. Yeah.
Oh, unless Bell was the last name, right? I'm excited about Art Bell.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. We have another audio daily double, as a matter of fact. This came out right after the news last week as well. I thought this was cool. The craft just disappeared, according to a veteran combat pilot, as she describes her UFO sighting. Let's go ahead and give that a listen.
So, Alex, just first of all, walk us through what it is you saw.
I want to be careful because it's been 16 years since that event.
This was 2004.
November 14th, 2004. And I just want to be careful because we know, right, that the science of the mind and the science of the memory we shouldn't rely too much on my technical account at this point. But I will point out that the other aircrew and I made thorough debriefs on that day within minutes of landing, and that I made a written account with as many arrows and details and including comms and bearings and altitudes and all of that I could within, I would say, hours of landing. And then within a few years, gave thorough, almost interrogation style details to members of the Office of Naval Intelligence and ATIP. But I'll tell you overall, what happened was that we were on a routine training mission off the coast of Southern California, off the USS Nimitz, which is an aircraft carrier. I was with VFA 41, which is a strike fighter squadron, as a new pilot. We were heading off to do air intercepts. We were heading off to do like a scrimmage, practice air-to-air run, and we were redirected. We were given vectors to go and intercept, see if we could intercept and identify a real-world contact. So we are scanning where we would expect to see something that we're merging with, and we don't see it. But instead, we do see something in the water below us. And so my heart sank. I went from being excited that we might go get those bad guys to, oh no, those bad guys have crashed and are sinking, and now we're on scene commanders for search and rescue effort. And then almost as soon as that happened, enter stage left, the tic-tac. And that's what we affectionately refer to it as, because that's what it looked like. I get a lot of questions, what did it look like? And I say, have you ever had a tic-tac? It looked like a little oblong, little from our perspective at our altitude, but about the size of a normal aircraft fuselage. And it was white. It was sort of a matte finish, just like a tic-tac. And it behaved in a way that we were surprised, unnerved. It accelerated, or it almost didn't accelerate, right? It sort of jumped from spot to spot and tumbled around in a way that was unpredictable. And so, again, my commanding officer, Dave Fravor, Commander Fravor at the time, he took an aggressive maneuver to engage with it. Me being the wingman and also sort of uncomfortable and inexperienced, I said, okay, I've got high cover, which basically means I'm going to hang out over here. I got your back, but I'm not going to get involved too closely. And so he turned with it, and then it just disappeared. It zoomed out of the picture so fast that we all then were scrambling on the radio. And the whole time we're on the radio with each other, just sort of losing our minds.
I'm sure you've certainly given this a lot of thought, and I'm sure you've been asked a gazillion times, but do you believe, what do you think of it? What do you think it was?
Yeah, every time I'm asked about this, they say, well, what was it? I'm not qualified to make that analysis. And part of the reason I agreed to speak with you and I agreed to speak in 60 Minutes the other night was that I'm trying to reduce the stigma for other aircrew so that if they see something or when they see something, they'll say something, and that they will not feel embarrassed or ashamed to make the reports, and that they'll know how to make the reports and where to make the reports, and that they'll contribute to this data pool of information that we have, so that those who are professional intelligence analysts and scientists can look at that information that is collected and consolidated, and that they can make some really sound reasonable, rational conclusions, because no matter what size you are of the UFO wars, which I'm actually just learning about now, and shout out to my new friends on hashtag UFO Twitter, that it's fascinating. I am fascinated with their fascination, and so whether they are hardcore enthusiasts or conspiracy theorists or hardcore debunkers, or even there's like this tribe of religious fanatics who are just, I don't quite understand them yet, but there are all these different camps. And at the core, no matter how much they're attacking each other, what I see is that they all want answers. They all want to know what it was. And we can't do that if we're just attacking each other, or if we're shaming each other, or sensationalizing it. We really have to cooperate and again, get more information, get more evidence so that we can come to some sound conclusions.
Very cool. Interesting audio, to say the least. Again, I love that she's very reserved in how she talks about it and is cautious about her examination. But, this is what I saw. This is what I can tell you. Man, I'm just hoping we're at a point where the tipping point has gone too far. I just want to know one way or the other now. I just hope that they kick it to us, or that the aliens are taking that choice away from them, and that's why we're about to find more information out. But we'll see. All right, so we talked about the art installation and how cool that's going to be, and the fact that there are art from the 1800s and on that deal with the supernatural, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, this was a big surprise to me this week, coming from Esquire magazine. John Steinbeck, one of America's foremost authors, right? The Grapes of Wrath.
Mm-hmm.
He had a book that was rejected. And it's been unearthed. Unearthing a lost novel from a Titanic writer's dusty desk drawer is every reader's dream, but that dream comes true all too infrequently. Yet somehow, in 2021, it's shaping up to be a banner year for lost novels, with Richard Wright's long-buried novel of police brutality resurrected this spring, and Simone de Beauvoir's abandoned novel of girlhood interrupted on its way this fall, just when readers thought the year couldn't get any better. Those are your two that sound great. Okay. News of another unpublished novel has come along to dazzle us all. John Steinbeck has written a book about werewolf murders. Yeah, you read that right. Nobel Prize winner and giant of American letters, John Steinbeck, wrote a werewolf mystery titled Murder at Full Moon, which has languished in the archives at the University of Texas in Austin after Steinbeck's publishers rejected it almost a century ago. Written under the pen name Peter Pym, Murder at Full Moon is one of 3 early career novels Steinbeck never published, 2 of which Steinbeck himself destroyed as he struggled to achieve literary fame. Now, an academic is calling on the troubled Steinbeck estate to finally allow publication of Murder at Full Moon. There would be a huge public interest in a totally unknown werewolf novel by one of the best-known, most read American writers of the 20th century, said Professor Gavin Jones, a specialist in American literature at Stanford University, in an interview with The Guardian. This is a novel that really nobody knows about. It's a complete novel by Steinbeck, and it's incredible. Set in Steinbeck's beloved coastal California, Murder at Full Moon is about a community terrorized by a series of grisly murders taking place under, as you might have guessed, a full moon. Detectives fear that a supernatural monster has emerged from the marshland near the coastal town. The novel's characters include a rookie reporter, the mysterious owner of a local gun club, an armchair sleuth determined to solve a rash of crimes using techniques from pulp detective fiction, and a werewolf. Even though it is a very different type of book from Steinbeck's other work, it's a totally different genre. It actually relates to his interest in violent human transformation, the kind of human-animal connection that you'll find all over his work. His interest in mob violence and how humans are capable of other states of being, including partially violent murderers, Jones said. In 1930, publishers rejected Murder at Full Moon, and Steinbeck shelved the project. Jones speculated that publishers were disinterested in publishing a gory novel from a then unknown writer. In the decades to follow, Steinbeck would go on to achieve great fame with Dust Bowl novels about the beleaguered working poor, including Of Mice and Men, Tortilla Flat, and The Grapes of Wrath, which you either read or pretend to read in 9th grade. That last book inspired an entire Bruce Springsteen album, The Ghost of Tom Joad. That was my own little aside. I don't know why I felt the need to throw it in, but damn it, anytime I can work Bruce Springsteen into a story, I'll do it. His fame has come with a steep cost to his legacy. Decades of infighting among his heirs over money and movie deals deemed a family feud worthy of a Steinbeck novel. Murder at Full Moon's fate may hang in the balance of his legal feud ever since Steinbeck's death back in 1968. So they've been battling this for 52 years. His family has remained bitterly divided, with his widow and his children from a previous marriage pitted against one another in a heated dispute over the copyright to Steinbeck's works. Well, here's the thing, though. I thought that a book 50 years old is now public domain. So if he wrote it 50 years ago, yeah, I guess because it's never been released. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and not if copyright has been continued to be filed by the heirs.
The estate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Litigation has been ongoing since the early 1980s. And now that Steinbeck's widow and sons are deceased, their heirs have continued the feud. The unfortunate consequence of the family's ongoing squabble is that Murder at Full Moon remains unread. And as a result, we remain in the dark about this undiscovered side of an American master. All this hand-wringing about preserving Steinbeck's legacy, all these hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in legal fees, all the literary public understands Steinbeck no better than we did before. Loosen the fuck up, people. Relax. Right? I mean, you listen, you want money? How much money are you making not releasing this book? Fighting it out. Wouldn't it be better to just split it? I would guess you would get a huge chunk of change for that. And then the movie rights. Oh man, just stupid. But I'd love to read that book. I might go there, sneak in, and pull like a Mission Impossible where I lower myself in on a cable and wear white gloves and pull back the pages and read them while suspended from the ceiling while Tim's up in the ductwork holding onto the end of the rope for me.
Straining with my damaged legs.
Yeah. I'm not worth it, Tim? Your buddy Dave's not worth it?
I'm just saying, you might get through about 3 to 4 pages before I drop you.
Son of a bitch. Tim, big news before we move on to Theater of the Mind.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of Jigsaw and the Saw movies, Tobin Bell is back in a movie we've been all waiting for. The Black-Eyed Kids urban legend is coming to life in a Tobin Bell starring movie called Let Us In.
Oh, boy.
Looking like a gateway horror movie for kids, Tobin Bell stars in Samuel Goldwyn Films' upcoming Let Us In, which brings the Stranger Things vibe in the first official trailer. Let Us In comes to on-demand and digital on July 2nd. A spirited 12-year-old girl and her best friend look to uncover the sudden disappearances of several missing teens in their small town, realizing there might be something deeper happening. Emily and Christopher might be up against forces they can't even begin to imagine. The film is based on the urban legend of the Black-Eyed Kids. Mackenzie Moss, Sadie Stanley, Mackenzie Ziegler, Sienna Ogdong, and O'Neill Monaghan star. Craig Moss directed the film, written by Moss and J.W. Calero. But no mention of Darkness Radio, who helped to make this a popular topic. Sons of bitches.
Yep.
Sons of bitches. I don't know that to be true. Their mothers may have been wonderful people. Wonderful, wonderful people. Hello, Dave and Tim.
Hiya.
7 years ago, when I was living with my ex-girlfriend, strange things started happening. That's how this email begins, Tim. I would get home and lock the doors as habit, but as I was going to bed, I would check the doors and windows, and they would often be unlocked. I always thought my ex was responsible, playing tricks on me, but she swore it wasn't her. Then, on a regular basis, in the mornings, my keys would go missing, even though I always left them beside the computer, and I would find them in odd places. Again, I thought it was my ex messing with me, but again, she swore it wasn't her. At the time, I was sleeping very poorly as I suffer from severe sleep apnea, but I was unaware of it at the time. I always felt like someone was watching me in the bedroom. I studied up on the sleep apnea, and during my research, I learned about sleep paralysis. I assumed the feeling of being watched was due to the sleep paralysis. I eventually moved out to live with my new girlfriend and now current wife. Like he says, current wife. She's going to love that part of the story. One day, we visited my ex and her current boyfriend. They had turned my old room into an office, so I went up to see what had been done. As I started walking up the steps, I got a sudden feeling of being watched, and a paralyzing fear stopped me in my tracks. I finally shrugged it off, chuckling at myself, realizing it was just my imagination. My old room looked great. I walked back downstairs and congratulated them on a great job with the room. The boyfriend then asked me why I stopped walking up the stairs. I told him why, and that's when all of my old fears of being watched came rushing back. He told me he had recently seen a ghostly figure of an old woman walking from my old room to their bedroom. Then a few days later, the same old woman was in the bathroom between both rooms, staring at herself in the mirror. My ex then explained she thinks her grandmother is looking over her based on over her boyfriend's description of the old lady. Coincidence? I would love to know your thoughts. Thanks for all the entertaining years, and that comes from Kevin. I don't know what to tell you. It sounds like you got it figured out, brother. I mean, you had experiences, they continue, and they've seen the ghost. And from his detailed explanation, it seems like it's her grandmother. Case closed. Like, let's go get a snack now, Scoob. I don't know where else to take it after that. It's a great story, though, Kevin. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, folks, you love the show. Many of you have been with us since the start. Some of you have just found us. Do us a favor, whether you're new, old, whatever, please go review the show on iTunes or whatever service you listen to the program. Give us 5 stars. Write something kind. It's just a good thing to do. But if I could ask you to do me one favor, if you have a problem with one episode, the audio quality was a little off, instead of going and rating the show a 1 star because one episode had bad audio, could you just write to us and tell us so we can check in on it and see what was wrong with the audio? I also see that there's times, Tim, people write a nasty review because, well, I've gone in this, there's been no updates to the show in 6 months, but we've been live. Folks, if you're having trouble finding our show, all of a sudden there's no new episodes, always begin by updating the app you listen to us on. 9 times out of 1,020, well, no, I guess that sounds wrong. 1,000 times out of 9, Tim, it's the fact that the app just needs an update. And once you update the app, that's how you know things are screwy with the app, when something's not working right. So if you suddenly can't find a show that's been on for 16 years and has not stopped, it's probably the app, not the show.
Right.
So please go update the app, whatever app you're listening to us on, whether it's Stitcher or Spotify or iHeartRadio or the Darkness Radio app or iTunes. Make sure that you update it. And I know we're on a plethora of others, so please update the app first. But don't go give us a crap rating for the show because one episode sounded off or there was a problem, which is funny because that's kind of the 1 stars we get. So please go give us 5 stars. Be kind. And if you've given us a crap review in the past because of something silly like you couldn't access the episodes and only found out later it was a mistake because you hadn't updated the app, go pull that one down and put up a new one. That'd be great. That's all I'm asking. It's a kind way to spread the word. And we've got a ton of great reviews on there. We'd love to have more. Let us know what you think of the show. Go rate and review the show and put out the good word. Share the show with others. That's how, by rating and reviewing it, you'll actually expand our availability to others to find the program. So thank you very much. I just want to throw that out there, Tim. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm a sharer of things, Tim.
A sharer of things, huh?
Yeah. Let's see. I know we got to muscle through these stories quick. Let me see where I want to go next. Oh, how about a happy story about decapitated animals, Tim?
What?
Yeah, well, maybe not so happy. A series of gruesome discoveries found in a small neighborhood park has left residents baffled and demanding answers. Since the beginning of the month, the heads of various animals have been reported by unsuspecting passersby in Briars Bend Park, a community park located 10 miles west of Houston. Last week, a woman said she found the head of a goat wrapped in a white dress next to a bag containing the heads of 3 roosters in a divot in the dirt. Right below the surface was a severed baby young goat's head, a package with 3 rooster heads, and an egg, and a long white woman's cotton sundress that was burned. The woman, who asked not to be identified, told KHOU 11, Kahoo 11, Tim.
Yeah.
I was obviously very shaken up. I couldn't believe my eyes. I ran up and called 911 right away. A dispatcher advised the woman to call the city's Park and Recreation Department. Leslie Knope was quick on the scene. Shortly after her report, she said a man from the department came out, took pictures, and then left. The animal body parts were gone soon after that. After posting the grisly discovery on the Nextdoor app, others in the community replied that they had also found dead animals in the area. One neighbor posted a picture, which he said was the body of a goat in a black trash bag, according to Kahoo 11. Rituals? The man asked alongside a photo of a black trash bag lying in the underground. What kind of rituals are done in the bayou? This looks like a goat, but I hear that sometimes people leave dead chickens. Another local woman said that she had made similar discoveries in a park 11 miles west of Briar Bend Park. I found a decapitated goat and 2 chickens laid with a bowl of fruit near the bayou in George Bush Park last month, the woman said in response to the recent reports. I think the practice is Santeria. It's a safety concern, another neighbor said, not just for myself, but for everyone that lives in the community. Houston police said the discoveries could fall under an animal cruelty investigation, adding they did not have any records of similar reports from Briar Bend Park. The park is a popular spot for families and young children, prompting concern among residents who are now calling for more lights and surveillance cameras in the park. It might be Santeria. I learned this, Tim, when we did the episode at the Morris Jumel Mansion for Holzer Files. Mm-hmm. We had Santeria priest come out and explain to us, because it is one of the few plots of land with grass and trees, they would come make these donations to try to shed themselves of dark energy, of ghosts, or making sacrifices to nature, thanking nature. So if they do get caught, I believe because it falls under religious practice, they might not do jail time, but I don't know. It sounds like it's falling under that. And if somebody out there is more aware or adept at knowledge regarding Santeria, you can always email me about that. But I'm pretty sure that's what they're dealing with in this case. Let's see what else there is to talk about. Oh, how about a postman that's been flabbergasted by a ghostly apparition, Tim?
Okay.
And remember, a lot of these stories, folks, will appear on our website. Just go to darknessradio.com, click on the news tab, and you will find the stories there. Postman flabbergasted by a ghostly apparition caught on camera. A ghost hunting postman claims he caught a paranormal experience on camera while visiting the Derby jail. While Mark Vernon visited Derby Jail on Saturday with historian and Most Haunted star Richard Felix during his visit, the 55-year-old captured footage which appears to show a ball of light glide and circle the room, which he believes was a ghostly energy ball. The Royal Mail postman, who has been doing paranormal investigations now for 30 years, was amazed by what he saw. He told Derbyshire Live, "It was just incredible when it all took place. I got there at about 11 a.m. and this happened at about 1 p.m. I was changing the battery of my camera and was just making sure it was working when this entity appeared. I was flabbergasted. It was some kind of energy ball, and you could feel the static coming from it. It was like a ball of energy that came into the room. You could feel the hairs on the back of your arms and hands stand on end. One of the ladies who was there later told me that it made her feel woozy as well." The footage shows Richard Felix talking to Laura Martin and Lynn Hughes of West Midlands Paranormal Investigations about an exhibit at the jail when suddenly a ball of light appears to move across the room. Mr. Vernon's excitement can be heard when he says, "Smile, you're on camera with a ghostie." The ball of light then makes its way over one of the ladies before circling past round both of them and towards Richard Felix. The light is spotted circling around 3 times before heading upwards and out of view. Mr. Vernon said, "When I first saw it, it looked like it had come from a skeleton exhibit at the jail. After it had gone around the room, it went back in that direction before it finally disappeared. Whether it has anything to do with that, I do not know, but it was quite amazing to see." Richard Felix, who was amazed by the video and is convinced in the shape that it was caused by dust particles, he said, "I was gobsmacked when I saw the footage. To see it so clearly there on film as well." That sounds nothing like Richard Felix, who is a gentleman and a scholar, and we love him. "But I was very impressed. Dust particles normally fly by. This kept coming around. It seemed to go towards me and then stay around me. My view on all this is that ghosts are nothing but energy. What forms they take, really, I don't know. They just transform themselves." It's how much is in your own mind of your own perception. We should change the name of ghost to energy, because that's what it is. It's an energy force. Derby Jail is famous for its history of imprisonment and death, and people can visit for ghost walks, overnight vigils, themed days, and private events. So that's pretty cool. Hey, speaking of cool, Tim.
Yeah.
Darkness Radio events coming back in 2022. I've talked, I think, Mansfield Reformatory for Memorial Day 2022. That weekend, I think we're going to take over Mansfield Reformatory and do a Darkness Radio event there. Probably Holzer Files, a few guests from our other favorite shows will be in attendance. And so we're aiming for Memorial Day weekend 2022.
Right.
How exciting is that?
That's very exciting.
Yeah. Also, I just got off the line. We have our Scotland trip, which is going to take place in September 2022. If you're interested, you can email me about it. I don't know if there are any tickets available because it was originally scheduled in 2019. 2020, and then it was moved to early 2021, and we had to move it to 2022 so that the pandemic is gone. Right now, to have it happen, we would have to fly into Scotland and then quarantine for 14 days before we take the trip, and nobody can afford to do that. So we're pushing it off to September 2022. But it looks as though I will be doing an event to Puerto Rico. In 2022 as well. And there will be more. So keep checking darknessevents.com. As soon as these events are made available, we will publicize them, put them up on the site. But you can go see what events Tim and I are going to be at this year already. And there's a lot of great events coming up in many different states, from Las Vegas to California to Minnesota and Michigan, Gettysburg. So we're going to be all over, and we'd love the chance to meet and greet with many of you. So come on out, say hi, check out darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. Just a few more stories to share, Tim.
All right.
Paranormal researcher says thousands of people are trapped in the past. I've reached out to this gentleman. I want to get him on as a guest. How about this? Conspiracy theories surrounding the concepts of time travel, time loop, and time cracks are very popular in online spaces. Even though there are no concrete pieces of evidence to substantiate these concepts, conspiracy theorists strongly believe that time travel and time loops are real, and there are several portals on the planet that could be used to manipulate time. Adding up the heat to these seemingly bizarre theories, a paranormal researcher has claimed that thousands of people could be lost in the past after falling through the cracks of time. We just talked with Von Braschler a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying that I wonder if people have vanished in time, either to the future or to the past, when they just vanish. I'd love to look in records and see if people that were found that didn't know their name or were out of place might have been put in a loony bin at the time because they said, well, I'm Tim Dennis and I'm from, Berkshire, Minnesota, and my address is 314. Hey, it's a little scary. Apparently, you're not even paying attention to what I had to say at this point.
No, I'm just thinking to myself, they just called you a loony bin in this article.
No, I'm speaking. I said loony bin.
No, they called you a conspiracy theorist. If you read the article, they just said you're a loony bin conspiracy theorist. But go ahead.
I like it, but what if Tim Dennis fell through one of those holes and he's in the past somewhere, tooling away in a loony bin because nobody believed his story? I'd love to look into that and then look at people that have gone missing years later and see if any of those people line up. I bet there's something to that, man. Wouldn't that be crazy? Well, popular paranormal researcher Rodney Davies believes that the paranormal phenomena of time slips allows people to travel through time could be real. Davies, who is the author of the book Time Slips: Journey into the Past and Future, said that thousands of people who used to go missing every year might be trapped in the clutches of time. It's possible some people have slipped into the past and ended up stuck there. Thousands of people go missing every year, said Davies. According to a report published in Daily Star, several people who live in Britain have experienced the magic of a time crack. One of the most perplexing among them is the experience of music student John Moonen. Moonen claimed to have seen horses and carts carrying passengers in Victorian-era dress past old-fashioned stores on the road. At first instance, he thought that some film shooting is going on the roads, but when he turned back, all those ancient sites disappeared, and the shops appeared modern again. As the testimonial shared by Moonen went viral online, several people suspect that there could be hidden portals, or lots of weed, in the public that could allow people to travel across several dimensions of time. Though such claims lack any scientific evidence, some people suggest that the subway in Liverpool that runs under the area has created a rip in time because it travels in concentric circles. So I've reached out. I'm trying to get Mr. Davies on the show. I want to talk about this theory. I'm fascinated by it. Maybe I'm the only one, but I'm fascinated by it, and it would be amazing to see if there is something more to the story. Let's see. Last story. Here it is, Tim. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
A ghost of a boy and a man in a hat were caught on camera at a haunted Cornwall graveyard. That's right. There's something about graveyards that's a bit creepy and hair-raising, especially after dark, and there's one in Cornwall where you probably want to avoid wandering alone. Mylor Cemetery. Located a couple miles from Flushing, the cemetery is said to have its own resident ghosts. Paranormal team Whispers decided to investigate after hearing about a red-eyed beast in the area and ended up catching on camera the spirits of a little boy and a shadow man wearing a hat. Candace Collins, who leads the team, said the photo of the man in the hat pictured was taken on March 16th. This article will appear on our website. If you go to darknessradio.com, click on the news tab, you'll see this article and the picture. We hear the village was haunted by a red-eyed beast, she said. A couple months later, on May 7th, the team went back to Mylor Cemetery for a second investigation. There, they felt paranormal phenomena and captured on camera the spirit of a little boy. She said it was about 10 p.m. when the team heard whispering and footsteps. We were doing a paranormal investigation there, doing some filming and taking pictures, and went over the evidence, and we saw the face. From the start, we were hearing whispers of what sounded like a child. My mom felt a tap on her leg. She felt someone was behind her. It made her feel so dizzy, I started snapping pictures all around the cemetery while having a very intense feeling of something following me. I heard footsteps as well. All in all, I feel it was a very active place and very interesting. The Whisper Trio, based in Falmouth, includes Candace, her partner Nick Pierce, and her mom Suzanne. They explore the most haunted and spooky places in Cornwall. Other than spirits of the child and the man in the hat, they've spotted ghost dogs, tracked down the spirits of a tin mine, and, according to Candace, even had a scrape with a dangerous demon. We always had a gift, me and my mom, Candace, previously told Cornwall Live. When I was younger, I'd see tables moving, a lot of noises in the house, doors closing. Even now, I see dark shadows behind me in mirrors. One time, a spirit imitating my son when he was little ran through the kitchen. He wasn't there. He was asleep in the front room. These ghost experiences and the need to get Suzanne, who was suffering from ill health outside, gave the group the idea to start a paranormal investigation team. They have been at it for 3 years now and previously made headlines when they caught a ghostly figure by a Cornish tin mine on camera. With a following of 15,000 on Facebook, the group posts its findings as well as live streams to their dedicated fan base. A typical ghost hunt, Candace explained, starts by finding a place to investigate and checking it's safe to enter. For abandoned buildings, this involves checking it out during the day to make sure that it's not a safety hazard or occupied by living residents. Then they gear up, and as well as the obvious, they have cameras, flashlights, phones. The team have some sort of specialized equipment. Nick uses a thermal imager for heat signatures so they can see if there's something that doesn't look right. Mom goes on trigger objects, which move when there is a presence nearby, and devices to check for magnetic fields. They also use a voice recorder, a ghost box to speak directly to spirits, and a paranormal music box, which plays a creepy tune when there's something nearby. We have that story, the video, the photographs, and all that up on that site at darknessradio.com. Click on the news tab to find that and more. That's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined by Mike Ricksecker as we take a deeper dive into the shadow realm and talk about shadow people, the shadow realm, and more. So make sure you're back. Mike Ricksecker, one of our favorite guests, back on the best in paranormal talk radio. That's Tim. I'm Dave, and you've been listening to Darkness Radio.